Back in the garden workshop, making the most of the weather for a couple of hours in between bits of work. Today's project, a bit more fiberglassing, but also working on the boot catch, and made some progress on that front already. So normally on a Z3, this piece here would be up in the boot lid, and this catch here would be bolted to down here. But I didn't like that arrangement because it means having loads of cables and a solenoid and various other things up here, and it meant having a catch out here on the outside of the boot lid as well. So I figured, why not swap them around, put the static piece on the inside of the boot lid and put the bit with all the motion and all the connections out here where it's a bit more accessible, where I can easily get to a manual release. So if I pull that, this will release. In order to test this idea, I 3D printed some very simple brackets, one pair to hold the catch on and one pair to hold the actual locking mechanism on. And on my first attempt, which I have to say was just pure guesswork pretty much, I did 3D scan this to get the angle, because these mounts were at a funny angle. So I 3D scanned this piece in, which I'll show on the screen, design these brackets, and, well, I mean, this thing's hanging here only, this whole piece is hanging here only from the catch. So yes, all the brackets are at full extension, I put some adjustability in, but nonetheless, kind of nailed it. Obviously they're not strong enough for actual use. I don't know if you can see in the dark, but the pin that's meant to go all the way into this mechanism isn't all the way in, and it's at about, what's that, I don't know, 15 degrees from horizontal. So I need to add an angle into here to bring the pin round and down. But other than that, it all pretty much lines up. I reckon 2 more iterations and I'll kind of be there. The plan is, I want to sort of box all this in. I'll need to have some sort of manual release that can pull this. I think it goes that way. So some sort of angle pin with a piece that goes out the floor, I suspect. Pull that and this will release, but then also have a solenoid out here that can do the pulling. I'd like to have the solenoid set back as far as possible. I don't want to eat into boot space too much. But like I say, it just made so much more sense for me to have this thing where I can access it and play with it, rather than where it all has to be tucked away inside the boot lid. Do still have to put the high level reversing light into the boot lid, but that should then be the only connections. I've already rerouted the wiring for this to the right position and taken it out of the boot lid loom. So yeah. Now unfortunately my 3D printer is tied up for the rest of the day, so I can't iterate these. I'm printing some Gridfinity stuff for my workshop. I can't do any iterations straight away. Maybe later this afternoon. In the meantime, I'm going to get some more fiberglass onto here to reinforce this, so that I can then start to come around the other side and start packing it out with filler and getting a bit more sense of shape. Also, depending on how wet the fiberglass is, might be able to get the number plate on, get the mounting point for the charge points on, and drill some holes. So we can now cross off reinforce number plate surround from my pre-MOT to-do list. What else can we check off now? So, number plate lights, I've ordered some replacement LED ones to be wired up. Need to put a drain in the headlight buckets because they're collecting water at the moment. ABS and EML bulbs are on, but those don't actually constitute a failure on this. But maybe take those out or cover them up, we shall see. I need to top up gearbox and diff oil. All of my oils are at the storage units. I'll have to go and get those. Rear light loom needs securing, but I can't do that until I've put the back end on for something like the last time. Headlight loom and windscreen washer piping I could do actually. Get the polyurethane out and glue those on. Need to put a tyre repair kit in because I don't have a spare anymore. I think that's an MOT requirement if you don't have a spare, not sure. Fit the number plate, can't do that until the fiberglass has dried. Fit the charge port, likewise, it's going to be quite difficult to do that and get it all measured up without the that being dry. Need to do a nut and bolt check under the engine bay. I'll do that around the end, where I'll just go around and check everything's tight, check nothing's missing. Do need to fit bump stops, which I missed out when I fit the adjustable coilovers. Hasn't been an issue so far, but I do have 2 bump stops in the boot, which I somehow completely missed out. Proper coolant, it's running on council coolant, as Jamie would call it at the moment. So I'll drain that out and put some coolant in at some point, but again, I'll do that right toward the end. Need to refill, bleed and test the braking system. All my braking fluid is again in the storage unit, so I'll have to go and get that, which I might pop out and do this afternoon. The main bonnet catches need bolting on, but I do need to fix the bonnet release, and that might be something we look at now. My piece of string approach isn't working very well, and actually the string broke the other day. And even with the piece of string poking out, I can't quite get enough force or the right angle on the catch to release it. So that's a bit of a pain. But the main bonnet catches do need screwing in as well. I need to check that those actually work, because they're pretty old and tired. Again, might be a case for getting some spare parts from the storage unit. Boot catch, that's what we've just been working on. Boot seal, I need to get some rubber to go around there to stop it admitting water. And the boot interior panel, well, we've measured that up now, we know how it's going to fit, it just needs bonding on. Actually, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to get that bonded on now that we've put all the interior support on for the number plate. So I'm going to get that bonded on and then come back to some of the other stuff. Going to sort out bonnet catch for here. My ultimate goal is not a piece of string, but a nice little pull handle with a rod going through it, 3D printed part bolted either side of the grille, which will be well firmly fixed. Spring loaded, that pulls on here. But either way, this thing's going to need adapting. At the moment, you can see this string is pulling on that thing, and there's not really, it's all at the wrong angle. So I'm going to take this off and get this thing bent round so the string is pulling in the right direction, and then ultimately something like a brake cable or a solid cable can pull in the right direction and open that up. First things first, going to clean up the rust. I've had to take the guard off the bench grinder because my 20-ish-year-old 150 watt bench grinder isn't powerful enough to actually turn this with the friction on the guard. And that could do with a bit of balancing. You can see it's doing a pretty nice job, even if it does move all over the place. I've put some WD-40 on these threads here, so I can actually take the thing apart. Get those cleaned up with a wire brush as well, and then see if I can get this out of there. And then see if we can do anything about this hinge. There we go. It's not clean, but it's cleaner and a bit less rusty. It'll need, ideally, powder coating at some point. I'm not going to do that pre-MOT. I'll take it all apart and probably separate out this hinge, get it powder coated and put it all back together at some point down the line. For now, I need to work out, can I just put a hole in here, or will that be completely out of line with the bonnet pull? Or do I instead need to sort of cut this off and maybe for now bolt, but ultimately weld an arm down here that can be pulled on? So I've checked, it actually all lines up really nicely. In fact, with the kink in it, it actually lines up better. So plan now is to bend this through about 30 degrees and put a hole in down here, and that's where ultimately our pull cable, but for now our piece of string can pull on. We'll see if that works. There we go, a little bit of heat and a persuader, big metal persuader. I've bent that round to basically the same angle as, ooh, you can't see that, bent that round to basically the same angle as here. Now, if I pull on the string, I've checked it shouldn't foul down here because that lock goes in there. It's all not perfectly fixed. Oh, there goes my screwdrivers. So, let's see how that works. Not having a lot of luck with this, but everything else, my mic's just run out of battery. This looks, although it's not quite right, I should have put the hole here. This looks like it should work. If I pull from out here, looks pretty good, doesn't it? You can't imagine it ever moved much further than that without fouling the bonnet. And yet, if I shut this, and I pull the string, but you don't know how much of this you're going to see. Okay, it does work, just about. It's not slick, but it'll do for now. And yes, I do need some new bonnet stays. So, something to be redone properly. Probably come off like this, out and down a bit more, so there's more leverage, and then a cable to there with a pull somewhere in the middle will do it. But it does seem to just about work for now. Over here our fiberglass is dry. That's all very solid now. Bit of cutting out to do here around the number plate lights. We can start thinking about getting a charging port in and a number plate on. We'll need to tidy up a little bit around here, just sand a little bit so that the rest of the bracketry fits. But yeah, let's get our test piece of aluminium on the back there and look at getting some charge ports in while I put the microphone on charge. As you can see, I've been busy while the camera's been charging, or the microphone's been charging. This is I'm going to replace this at some point. This is still an experimental piece of aluminium that's part of my hidden charge port system. I've just stuck the type 1 in the middle now because that's all I'm going to be using. I can always rearrange in the future, albeit you'll see in a minute why it's not going to be quite as easy as that. But I think I'm always going to have a type 1 at home. I can't see me upgrading it anytime soon, so might as well stick that one in the middle. I can always have Chademo, CCS, something like that. Plenty of space. So I've got this bolted in. You can see that I actually originally put it on sideways without thinking. I want the charge port to go vertically like that. So let's go and get this bolted in and see how it looks. It's close. Bit of fettling needed. A couple of things. One is obviously the latch doesn't quite fit, so I'll need to expand that hole a bit. I'm going to put a plastic trim around it anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, I just need to either cut out a slot at the top or just expand the hole. Not sure what's going to look neater really, a bigger hole or a perfect cutout for the thing. Possibly the latter. Either's fine really. But then that will lock straight in. As you can see though, that aluminium is not really thick enough. So one part of the reason I'm going to replace that is for something a bit stiffer. And actually I'll make it mechanically stiffer as well by putting some bends in it in the right places. But yeah, nearly there, nearly got a charge port. That's a good place to wrap up this video before I put everything back together and put it all away for the evening. Nearly got to the point where I can plug a charging port in, even if it's not connected to anything. And good progress on the boot lid, which is going to have to wait now until the car's reassembled and semi-permanently reassembled, unless I can work out a way to detach that panel once it's on, which looks unlikely. I thought some of it was mounted with screws, but actually it's all bonded together. So, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Okay, I couldn't resist while I was clearing up. I got the Dremel out. Fits, although that back plate's definitely too wobbly. Need to up that sort of 1mm aluminium with some bends in it, but it'll do for now.